We're waiting on the screen. As soon as the screen goes live, okay. We'll now call the February meeting of the Human Rights Commission to order. We'll begin with our approval of the minutes from the previous meeting of January 24th, 2022. Minutes are before you. Are there any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Are there any other questions? All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Minutes are approved. If you could take a look at our financial report, you see we still have a considerable amount of money left, but we're heading into that time of the year when we're going to try and we'll try and spend our budget down for our various events if we're able to have them this year. The major expenses were, of course, the sex trafficking flyer and ads and speaker fees, which amounted to roughly $1,200. Any questions on that? With that, I'm going to suspend the agenda for the rest of the agenda and move down to 11.1. We've invited Michelle Markgraf, and she'll introduce herself, but she's the interim director of the Ivy House. And I invited her to speak in, and she said she was going to bring some people along with her, so I'll let her introduce them, whatever case may be.
Chair, Commissioners, I am Michelle Markgraf with Ivy House. I'm the interim executive director. With me is Erin Miller. She is our program manager at the Ivy House, and she's the one that knows all the stuff. I'm just the interim director. I only pretend like I know things. So I asked her to be here to talk with me as well. The reason I'm in front of you is I had reached out to Professor Zaire and asked him for help with providing culturally appropriate things for the people that we serve at Ivy House, and he hadn't heard about Ivy House, and so invited me to come and talk with all of you about it. Definitely, if you know of different groups that we can get in front of, especially to learn about how to be better at being culturally meeting folks where they need to be, we're always willing to look at more places. Because of him, I got to speak with Amigos, and I'm not Spanish speaking at all, but Amigos de New Ulm, and they were very helpful in working with Spanish folks and talking about translating, and a lot of good things are coming out of that. Ivy House is a place here in New Ulm where we help families by taking children ages 0 through 12 and providing free care for those children while mom and dad are dealing with whatever is happening in their life. We started off 5 years ago and saying that we were helping people in stressful situations. And what we found was that people thought, well, this isn't stressful enough, so I can't use you. And the reality is it could be you lost daycare because of COVID and all of a sudden you need to find a place for your child, but you can't find a place and you're going to lose your job. That's stressful. And so we take a lot of children for daycare reasons just because they have no other place to go, and we want people to keep their jobs and not have to take PTO for watching their children. And so that's some of the reason we can go all the way up through domestic abuse. Definitely, we do see some pretty serious issues that happen that bring kids to us. Homelessness is another one that we've seen quite a bit, where people just don't have a place and they need to put their kids with us while they figure out what they're going to do next in their life. A big piece of what we do and why I wanted Erin to talk is we also provide some advocacy. We don't just keep the kids and then give them back in 3 days or whenever mom and dad are ready to take the kids back and say, have fun, good luck. We want to help them long term. And so that's where Erin steps in as our advocate. And I'll let you talk about what you do.
Sure. Yeah, so part of our intake process is really a significant basic needs assessment, which gives me the ability to really figure out what the family's needs are, what their current situation is, and then we can develop some kind of plan going forward. A lot of times it can be something simple like daycare search or job search or just kind of support in that way. We have many families that just call for emotional support when they're stressed with their kids and want ideas on how to help their kids get their energy out or something, basic like that. But we have some more complex cases too, where it requires a lot of other professionals to hop in. So we will utilize CADA if I'm doing an intake and there's significant domestic violence. I can get CADA on the phone at the same time, and we can kind of coordinate a plan at that point. But really, my job is to walk with those families wherever they're at and just help them move forward. And hopefully that we can do that in the short time that we have with them. Each family can use us up to 30 days in a year, and we do have families that will max out on that time, which does give us a little bit of time to work on those longer-term issues that may be present. And sometimes we only see people once because they have an immediate stress, and then it's resolved, and then we move on. So I do follow-up phone calls, and I check in with families and just let them know that we want to be a part of their village when they're struggling, and whatever that looks like, we want to be a support. So thank you.
And as she said, during intake, she's talking with parents, finding out their needs. One of the things we do at intake is we ask them if they have anything culturally or spiritually that they want us to do with that family or with the children. And whatever they say, we do. And so we do make sure that we have appropriate care for whatever culture, whatever spiritual ideology they come from. Or sometimes a parent will say, we don't want you to pray at all with our kids. And that's what we do, because we want it to be very parent-driven, family-driven, and to honor their value system, not to put ours on them. And I say that because we do identify as a Christian organization and want to share Jesus' love with families. That being said, we will do it only if the parents say, yes, that's something that we want you to do. And I have a couple of board members here with me today as well, just because it's good to see why they are involved in. We told you what we do, but the why is also important. Why are we in this community and helping folks? And Anna, I'll have you talk first a little bit. The Ivy House is actually named after someone in Anna's family, and so she has a very close connection with us.
Yes, thank you for having us. My name is Anna Fries, and long ago, my good friend Amber Collins, who's the founder of Ivy House, shared her passion and her vision for starting a resource in New Ulm that was similar to like orphanages and just caring for orphans. We both have a heart for that since we were young, and so God really put this vision on her to create a place where kids can come and just have a safe place. I remember over 10 years ago in New Ulm hearing about there was like a 4-year-old that was gated in their living room during the day while their parents were at work. And so that was the parents' solution. And then recently we read in the paper as well of, parents utilizing their car or whatever to have childcare. And so we exist to help solve that for people. And I know as like a stay-at-home mom when my kids were little and not knowing many people, you're kind of trapped with your 3 kids, and Quality Fitness closed and they had a daycare with their fitness center. It was like, yes, I actually can do something. But that's why we exist. And so I was part of just talking through it with Amber as she was beginning to develop it. And then in 2015, our daughter Ivy passed away, and we were gifted different memorial funds for different things. And Amber had come to me and she said, well, we need $8,000 for our down payment on our house, for the Ivy House. At the time, it was Southern Minnesota Crisis Nursery. And another family had committed $10,000. And so she said, Anna, if you know anybody who would be interested in helping, or you guys yourself, throw some money in, let's pray about it and see who we can ask. And I called my husband and I said, how much do we have in our memorial fund? And he said, about $8,000. I don't know, give or take $20. But I said, okay. Well, and I called Amber back and I said, I think we have the money. We don't need to ask anybody else. So we donated the $8,000 to do our down payment on the mortgage for the Ivy House. So a few years later, the board decided to rename it to more of a welcoming, not crisis or nursery, so that people know it's for 0 to 12 and it could be any situation. So they renamed it Ivy House. And that's kind of how, and then I was asked to be on the board 2020. So it's been a wild ride, of course, with COVID, but thankful to be on the board and providing this for our community and surrounding areas. Thank you.
And Steve, did you want to say anything? He's our current president of the board.
My name's Steve Turvold, and thank you for inviting us here today. And it's hard to follow Anna's lead. She has a great story, but I come to the Ivy House maybe from a little different background from a lot of the folks. A lot of the folks that serve at the or on the board at the Ivy House now come from a human services background, or they started in there because they came from the ground with it, and they grew up with the Ivy House, and they did a phenomenal job starting this for people that have never worked as a nonprofit. And I came in, Amber called me to bring some experience. I currently work for a nonprofit serving folks with disabilities, and I work on the operations side of that, so hopefully I can kind of come in and help with some of those things. And it just all of a sudden took over my heart. And I thought, now I get a hard time from my wife for turning into a softie between what I do in my day job and doing something like this that working in some of these areas I never thought I would have been 10 years ago. But the folks here, Aaron does a phenomenal job. I think one of the things that impressed me when I came on board, though, as Michelle spoke about the faith-based, is that it's from all over town. It's not just everybody from one church or another church. And we can sit down and we can have one person say, well, we think a little bit different at St. John's Lutheran than we do at St. Paul's Lutheran. So we balance it in between there. And then how can we bring in, how do the Catholics agree with this, and so on. So it's interesting, but yet we want to be welcoming to everybody. And we're not going to put anybody out for any particular reason, because we're there to help. And I think it's just a great group of people that work at the Ivy House and serve on the board with us. Thanks for letting us come in today.
All right, questions for us?
About how many people do you serve in a year? Just out of curiosity.
Good question. Because we see people multiple times, it's about 25 to 30 families, but we're seeing those families multiple times throughout the year. And actually, we found out, I'm the interim director, and with the change and the interim, we kind of lost the community touch in telling people about what we do, so people would come to us. So now is our push now back into the community, saying we've got this free service, please come and use us whenever you need us. So we hope to make that go higher.
Do you guys have like limitations or anything with COVID restrictions, or are you guys open?
Yeah, so we're fully open right now. We do extra cleaning precautions, and there was a period of time where we would only serve one family at a time, and then we would do a significant deep cleaning in between. But right now we're fully open, and we just make sure that the families that use us understand the risk that they're taking, and that's just a choice that they make.
How many can you serve at one time? Like, how many kids could you have there at one time?
Yeah, so we have a 3-to-1 care ratio, up to 6 kids at one time. So if we have any more than 3 children present, we will have 2 staff on.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay.
So you mentioned something about wanting to figure out how you could have culturally sensitive. I don't know if you were looking at toys or what exactly you were looking at. What need do you see? Is there anything that you have found as a need for your program?
I would just say we want to make sure that we're being aware that there are other cultures in our community and that we have the ability to meet them when they come in. So we do have like special hair care products that if kids come in and they need those products, we have them on site. We do have books and other materials too, but we're just reaching out because there are some communities that are a little bit more who don't understand our services, and we want to make sure that we're communicating properly with those individuals too, that that is a service that is available to them as well. So.
And sometimes you put up barriers and don't realize you're putting up barriers, and so that's just part of our communication too, is, you know, what's keeping you from coming to us, and can we do something different?
Have you, what is your typical revenue stream, I guess you can call it, from grants, from donations, from, yeah?
The last few years, we've been pretty much 50-50, half from grants and half from the community donations, events, fundraisers that we do. So pretty heavily invested from the community.
Okay.
Just quick, a few things I thought of before that I forgot to mention that I would feel fortunate that, Ivy House still isn't well known. I probably wouldn't have known it hadn't been for Amber knowing her prior. I think we're fortunate as a community to have folks to help from conception with first choice to Ivy House, to Newmass House. But one of the things that I think is really still shocks me, it's only been 3 years I've been on the board, 2 years I've been on the board, that each year on Christmas Day that the Ivy House is full. And it guess it drives home to me the need for a service like this in town when I drive by the house on Christmas Day and there's kids at the house because mom and dad are at work or whatever the reason might be, that where would the kids have gone for Christmas? And so Aaron or other staff are not spending Christmas with their families. They're at Ivy House helping other families.
Have you found any cultural sensitivity training or cultural training available for staff?
I have not. I haven't been there
Okay.
very long, though. Have you done some things?
Not in recent history.
If you could speak to the mic, that way it gets on. Yeah.
Not in recent history. I know that we have done some things when we first opened. I don't recall off the top of my head, but nothing as of recent.
Was there a group who did this, who did the training in particular at all that you were aware of?
No, our previous director had kind of orchestrated some of those things, but honestly, it's been 5.5 years, so I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? All right, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting us, and you've got our contact information. Feel free to reach out and get a tour or express any ideas that you might have for us. We're all ears. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is an Events Committee report, but I don't believe we have one from last time because we finished up, so we're good. Education Committee report. I think the press release you have in front of you, in which we extended the deadline to March 15th. And I know Lisa put that in the paper, released it. Wendy contacted the couple of schools, and I contacted a few other schools, so to remind them of the deadline. So we extended that. So we'll see I'll check with her what comes in on the 15th.
Yeah, and just
go ahead.
updates that I've had, just because I've been kind of, like I said, that's why we had extended in the first place, because I wasn't able to bug earlier. But I know the New Ulm Public High School has a bulletin board that's dedicated to it, where they have all of the entry forms as well as the information needed for the contest, so they've done that. I know Riverbend has some projects going with their art department. I haven't heard back from the middle school, but I've been, and we just need to keep this, I guess, in mind in the future is, the high school, for example, the teachers that I contacted didn't know. So I don't think that maybe our packet got farther than the office, and I teach and I know how that goes and I totally get it, but maybe just in the future to have these more specific contacts would be helpful for us.
I will say, when I dropped them off, some of the office staff in the different schools were very unsure of what to do. So that's a good point. And it was the first time I'd ever done it, so that I didn't know. So that's a good, yeah.
Okay, good.
Have we gotten any more submissions or not yet?
I haven't checked with Lisa, but
Okay.
typically they come in at the last,
Okay.
the
Last
last
minute,
day.
yeah.
Yes. So I'm not worried about it if we don't have any now.
There is no report from the Executive Committee. The Public Relations Committee report, I believe Lisa included the letter that we sent that we voted on at their last meeting in January that was published. I'm not sure we needed to do anything on that. I think we were all here for that. But she did submit that to us in case we had any change of heart.
Too late now.
Okay. Any questions on that? I think Lisa, as a general rule, puts those in there for us too, because of the interim, in-between meetings for us. So she's gotten in the habit of just including all the letters to the editor as part of our, having it as part of our record then, which I think is a good thing to do, so. Any current human rights issues that anybody is aware of, aside from Ukraine?
I just want to acknowledge the racist incidents that have been happening at the sporting events in Minnesota.
Oh.
That there's been a lot of those, and some of them are not as publicized, and anti-LGBTQ slurs being used at sporting events,
A lot
and
of teams are
it's-
forfeiting games, and
it's very widespread, and it's closer to home than we'd like to think. Like,
And New
it's
Prague
something
isn't
to
that
be
far
aware of.
away.
And it's not just New Prague. There's multiple schools that aren't getting the publicity, but it's happening across the board. So just something to be aware of and keep an eye on. It's across Minnesota, and I'm sure the country as well.
Has that been, has there been any incidents regarding New Ulm schools that you're aware, that anyone is aware of?
There was an incident with St. Peter game, but I think it was one individual on the team,
New
from my
Ulm?
understanding, yes.
Okay. That might be something we want to pay attention to, and maybe in our next meeting, we could maybe come up with something to, the Public Relations Committee can come up with something, keep an eye on that in the interim, and maybe publish something on that.
Yeah. It's a very widespread issue.
yeah.
And it's starting to,
And
Yeah,
what I find disturbing, this wasn't local here, but in the other instances, like in New Prague, it was adults that were in on it too. It wasn't just
Yeah.
kids from the school. So
it's a large
that's-
issue.
Yeah.
Takes it up a notch.
I appreciate that the schools seem to be addressing it. I know somebody from when I was in high school said I dealt with this my whole like high school life, and nobody ever stood up or said anything. So at least I feel like maybe something is being sort of done.
At least we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
We just aren't-
there's a lot
we
of
just
work
aren't
to
there
be
yet.
done, but
Dan is our legislative update. And I don't think he had one. He usually forwards it to me if he doesn't make it. Anything from the city council liaison?
Nothing to report.
Now, you must be up by end of March, right? So we'll need another city council liaison after that? Usually we go quarterly, so, okay. You only have another month of your sentencing left, sir. So. Other business then, presentation of the Ivy House. Any comments or questions?
Were they asking us for assistance?
I don't think so.
Just
No.
kind of aware.
Yeah,
aware?
I had, she had contacted, Michelle had contacted me about if we had any resources, and I gave her a couple of ones that I'm aware of that contact. But as she was making a presentation, I was thinking, well, we really, we haven't, none of our outreach necessarily deals with that, funding purposes, but we could probably, if we found some educational or staff training that for minorities or something that we could maybe offer some funding for. You think? I'm a little reluctant to fund something like that, but for that kind of training, it would be appropriate, I think, in that case.
Like you're suggesting funding like a cultural responsive training for.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not, that's why I asked if they had any that they were aware of. I know we've talked with the Greater Mankato Diversity Council. I wonder if I could, maybe we can contact them and see if they might have something.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really good start.
Okay. I'll contact them and see what we come up with. At least maybe we can find something for them to do. Okay, item 11.2 is the approval of our bylaws. They were reviewed in our last meeting, and the bylaws, the change that was made was simply to add the clarification paragraph under the guidelines for selection of candidates. It was the fourth bullet point that we added. The second half of that, after the Minnesota Human Rights Law, we added that rest of that section, which delineates specifically what protections are guaranteed under the Minnesota Human Rights Law. I'll read it again, which prohibits discrimination in employment, housing, public accommodations, public services, education, credit, and business based on protected class such as race, religion, disability, national origin, sex, marital status, familial status, age, sexual orientation, and gender identity. We have given the appropriate 10 days. Is there a motion to make a change to our bylaws?
I make a motion to approve the changes to the bylaws.
Is there a second?
A second.
Motion has been made and second. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor of amending the bylaws, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. And then the last official item of business was I presented for you the committee appointments, just so you had record of them. Kind of put them up, and it's a separate document. I don't think we have to act on those, but that's the result of my conversations with you, and if I got something wrong, please let me know. We have a little bit of balance, and I apologize to Kristen. I left out the R in both cases. My fingers are not.
That's all right.
And so, with that, the next probably event the Education Committee will meet next, probably March 15th, to see what the essay and poster contest is like. And then the next item of business will probably be planning for the parade. Is there something before the parade? We have the parade.
We have the awards ceremony for the recipients
Right,
of the
that's
awards.
usually during a
And then-
meeting, yeah.
Yeah, and then it'd be the parade.
The parade, National Night Out, and County Fair are the big events in the summer for us.
It's National Night Out in between, because it wasn't.
That's in
they
August.
Canceled, okay.
It's in August.
They canceled it last year, so. I
Right,
didn't
it's,
know.
yeah, I don't know where,
It's usually really.
End
really
of
close to
July,
the
early
county fair.
August.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, isn't it like typically the first Tuesday in August?
Yeah.
yeah, but
Or
New Ulm
Monday-
sets it
Monday,
differently,
Tuesday,
yeah.
Yeah, true.
Of course
yeah.
they do.
So given that, I did not put anybody as a chair of any of the subcommittees. You can kind of decide on that, maybe take turns if you want. We're trying to get a little more organized and staying ahead of the game, so that we plan better ahead, I think, and I think this is a way of doing that, is making sure somebody, like if somebody really likes National Night Out, jump on that. Or the fair or the parade. Usually what happens for the new members, we have had a parade entry, a vehicle. We do have a banner that we can walk with us. We've ordered stickers and bookmarks to give out at times, things to give out. For the parade, we wear our T-shirts, and maybe now would be a good time to think about getting T-shirts for this next season, because we're all out.
We also gave out yard signs too at the.
And the yard signs, thank you, right. The 2 yard signs we have. And so we have had that in the parade. This National Night Out, we've had a table in which we gave away bookmarks, information, things like that.
We've had kids' games where they can ask questions and answer them and get little prizes. So it's kind of a collaboration between the Education Committee and the Events Committee.
And then the county fair we're all kind of on board for that one. We sit we have a table. I have to order that skirt we didn't order. Yeah, I gotta order that for this year. So we'll have a table, we have displays, we have handouts again, information handouts for people. Somebody buys candy, and we give away. We have signs there to give away if people want to do that, ask questions, things like that. So it's just good to have that kind of presence in the community. Okay. Any questions? We're all good. Okay. So next regularly scheduled meeting is Monday, March 28th. Hopefully, all of us will be able to make that March 28th meeting. If that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion adjourned. Motion